It is a fact that COVID-19 has no cure for now, and nobody is immune to it. Increase in cases has been astronomical globally, with deaths recorded and many surviving to share their experiences themselves. However, of concern are the aged, who are said to be the most susceptible, as many records of those that have died of the virus were the older persons and those with underlying ailments. Now, how can we protect the elderly at this point in time, and what should they be doing to stay safe? My guests will be answering some of your questions, as well as some of other observations about the elderly persons in the society. My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome to On the Spot. My guest will be 73 in September. Now, he's a former board chairman, Federal Polytechnic, EZE in Osun State. A 1999 Imo State governorship aspirant and senator, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Imo East in the Fourth Republic. He founded Graceful Aging Fellowship, a faith-based healthy aging non-governmental organization. He's also the chairman and managing director, Darling's Nigeria Limited, and chairman, Darling 107.3 FM, Owerri in Imo State. I'm sure you'll have a picture of who my guest is now. He's the first Vice Chairman, Nigeria Civil Society Organization Strategy Group on Sustainable Development Goals. On the spot today, I'd like to welcome the President, Coalition of Societies for the Rights of Older Persons in Nigeria. The acronym is COSROPIN. Senator Dr. Darlington EZE AJOKU. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Age, they say, is just that number. But then we know when we have the older citizens with us in good health, sharing the wealth of wisdom with us, is something that is a blessing to society. And that is one area that you keep pouring forth your goodwill towards your colleagues, elder persons in the society. Welcome once again to the program. Now, in one of your submissions to the Senate President in February 2018, you said over 7 million elderly people are neglected. Recall?
Yes.
In this COVID-19, I'm sure you've seen the numbers actually outgrown that particular figure you put to it. What is the situation for older persons this time around?
Well, before COVID, the issue of the neglect of older persons has always been there. We were not captured in any numbers that people were dealing with, except the Office of Statistics said we were about 9 point something. I believe that ordinarily that older persons, if we classify it as people from 60 and above, we must be more than 10 million at this time. But that's the figure they gave. And when you look at it, we were not included in any developmental plans and initiatives. Older persons were completely neglected. And when you look at the programs the government has, none of them included older persons. They included children, they included women, they included youths, but older persons were like an endangered species. And when you look at the social insurance, older persons were excluded. As soon as you retire from government, they take your name off the National Social Health Insurance, Health Insurance. And the program that was supposed to reduce the imbalance in terms of wealth distribution, which the federal government started, again marginalized the older persons, because in the cash transfer, older persons were not targeted individually. They talked about households, not older persons. And in some cases, as you know, older persons may not be heads of families these days, because some of them live with people. They live with their children. They live with, some are divorcees and some are widowers and all that and all that. So you find that generally before COVID, older persons have been marginalized. A lot of older persons who had experience the experiences have not been utilized by the nation to continue to build this nation. You will agree with me that even in the ministries, there were people who were retired. Immediately they came back from a course. Government will have sent them for a course in one area or the other, which would help to the development of this country. As soon as they came back and they clocked 60, they were sent home. Can you imagine someone like me being retired and sent home when indeed my faculties are still in order and I can contribute effectively? The nation was not using the resources inbuilt in older persons. So you find that before COVID, the older person was not even being mentioned in any cycle. It's true now that people are beginning to talk about older persons because of the danger posed by COVID-19, because it affects older persons more.
Okay, now let's delve into these dangers you've just raised. We're going to get around some of these other issues you had raised before COVID-19, where the wealth of experience could be tapped still for those who are still intact. Like you pointed out, faculty still intact and everything, so in order. COVID-19 has brought its many strains and is affecting the different age groups differently too.
Yes.
And we've seen even older persons survive at counters given from across the world, and perhaps even here, even the records could not have captured that. But then we've still seen older persons give way due to underlying conditions. Share with us the experience from the group.
Now, you find that older persons are not all in the same class. I'm an older person and I'm healthy. There are elder persons that are not healthy. Some have underlying issues, and the degree to which their underlying issues affects them, differ. So you find that even in this COVID, people are affected differently. Older persons are also affected differently. The statistics we had by last week showed that the older persons had the least number of infections, just about 300 or thereabout, or 390. But out of that number, 15.5% of them died. When you compare that with the other age brackets, for example, those who were between 50 and 60, we found that only 5.8% of them died. And they had about 500 and something in their numbers. Then when you go below 50 to 40 and all that, they had a higher number of about 700 and something, only 2.5% of them died. If you go below in the different categories, you saw that the death rate was getting lower with age. It meant that the older persons were at higher risk. I'm talking Nigeria. I'm not talking Italy or New York, where they got a situation where the right for an older person to live was now in question. And that's why we started shouting early from experiences from those countries that something needs to be done to protect our older persons, because a lot of us are still productive. A lot of the older persons who are healthy can still contribute. And when you look at our government today, it's a government run by older persons, I must say. Right from our president to every other person.
So that's a plus to your group?
That is a plus to our group. And that's why we're surprised that our group is continually marginalized. And we don't understand it, because those who are leading us are in that category.
So who is causing this marginalization?
What do you think is causing it? It is the younger people who do the policies.
Ooh.
It is the younger people, because all the policy makers are under 60. And when they write policies, they don't ever think that they will get old. It is when they now get old and they are ruled out of things, they begin to say, wow, older persons are marginalized.
Senator AJOKU, you had the opportunity at this Senate, at least, younger than what you are now.
Yes.
What did you push towards this direction? Because you knew definitely.
I did not.
Why was it difficult to do?
Because that's the problem I'm saying, that when people are younger, they are not thinking about older persons and they're not thinking about old age. And that is why our concept of older persons should begin to think. And education, we should begin to educate our youths to begin to think about life, a life course event, so that they know that as they grow old, they go from being a youth to a man and then to an older person, and they begin to think about it. One of our members has been pushing in her programs to include gerontology in the studies in the universities. And until people begin to, the younger people begin to be aware of what is happening to their fathers when they leave, they will not be able to include it. And therefore, since the policymakers are the younger people, they have failed to make policies that the older people can endorse about older persons.
So while we're waiting for opportunities for such to be pushed as pieces of legislation, let's even back down and take off from the home viewpoints. We have homes that older persons are there, perhaps because of civilization, children have moved from where the parents actually reside in search of the white-collar jobs and some other means of survival. And these parents are actually left behind, no one to actually see through to how they are living. Almost every family is guilty of that.
Yeah.
Is there a wrong foundation somewhere that is not adding up for us to see, okay, the need for us to care for our parents or the older persons that are around us, that is now pushing the society to, okay, it's just one of those things, and such that it will not be taken seriously too as legislation points?
Well, I think that part of the problem is also our generation. This generation took care of their children when they were younger. Even when they became men, continued to look after them. And therefore, the young people never really thought about looking after mom and dad. Mom and dad is there all the time to do things. So it is this particular generation, my generation, that seems to have changed the culture. In the sense that in those days, everybody, you know, when we were younger, people, when they move from home, they still come home every year. They still have that link to their family. This generation, we have children who do not even, once they have moved from home, they have become like Europeans. They don't remember home again. Take an average Igbo man. He must migrate to his village every December. He must go home. He knows his home. He tries to build a house at home. But the children of these days don't have that link. So you find that things are beginning to lose, or we're beginning to miss it. And that's why a lot of young people, when they move out, they don't think of mom and dad again.
Isn't that a worry for your group and also older persons in the society generally on what will happen?
Well, it is a worry. But we have made a mistake. And it is even difficult for some of the children to listen at this time, because the world has become a global village. You know, if not the issues that we're having, the problems of Nigeria, this tribalism and all this, every Nigerian child who moves to anywhere now should have taken that place as his home. There are children born in Lagos who don't even know their homes. They don't speak any other language than Yoruba and English. They don't speak their mother tongue. And that's why we continue to appeal to government, you know, to ensure that every Nigerian feels safe wherever he is.
Okay. Safety is a key word, whether for the older generation and also the upcoming generation. We're going on a break now, distinguished Senator AJOKU. When we return, what Kosropin is doing differently to help this time around, and how we need to change the narrative about the care for the older persons will be our focus when we get back from the break.
Thank you.
You're watching On the Spot with distinguished Senator EZE AJOKU. Is the president coalition of older persons in Nigeria, as the Society for the Rights of the Older Persons in Nigeria. We'll be right back after this break.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Welcome back. The program is On the Spot, and our outlook is on COVID-19 and the older persons. We have the President Coalition of Societies for the Rights of the Older Persons in Nigeria, COSROPIN. Now, I like the acronym. Sounds exotic.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Okay. For you and the other groups that have come as a coalition, what is your target? Yes, I know you're watching out for each other, but basically, what are you out for?
The Coalition of Societies for the Rights of Older Persons is made up of all the organizations, CSOs, NGOs, faith-based and community-based organizations, retirement groups that are working with older persons. Meaning that some of those organizations may be younger people, but who are caring for the older persons. And what we did in 2015 was to come together, agree to come together under a larger umbrella as a coalition, so that our voices can be heard more. We provide a platform for the entrenchment of the welfare and well-being of older persons. And we have been reaching out to organizations across Nigeria, though we're having problems with 2 states where we haven't seen a lot of people looking after older persons. They haven't joined us. But we're always open to all organizations working with older persons to come join with us. Okay. Yes. And what we have been doing is not only to look out for ourselves, because some of the members are young, but totally to look after older persons, to try and safeguard the life and well-being of older persons across the nation.
What program have you been able to undertake this COVID-19 period?
Well, we've undertaken a lot of programs. For example, we were with the Ministry of Humanitarian in Karishi on Saturday to distribute targeted palliatives to older persons. Okay. We had always said that if you are giving out palliatives and you come to the open field, older persons will not have the strength to come and join in the line. Some are fragile, some may be able to, but it was dangerous for their health. And also, because we've been encouraging them to stay at home because of the rate of infection, we're happy that humanitarian accepted, and we went out, and we will still go around because they are going to give us things now to take to the homes of older persons that they can afford. So the
basic guidelines, health guidelines, how have you been able to reach out to?
We have been campaigning for a very long time. We were the first organization to encourage Nigerians to start wearing a mask. Even when WHO was against it, we started encouraging people to avoid transmission, especially those who are dealing with older persons. You know, we know the community infection rate, so we're encouraging people to use the mask. We've done a lot of press conferences, we've done a lot of press releases, we've done a lot of advocacy, encouraging older persons and Nigerians to follow the protocols. Wash your hands, use sanitizer, stay at home, maintain the social distancing, give yourself enough rest, and all that.
Okay, so, great. I'm glad you've already started touching on some of the areas I still want to quickly look into. We talked about underlying ailments for different older persons and even some more, or even younger.
Young people, yes.
I'm sure there are basic or at least known ailments that are manifesting amongst members. You might want to use some few seconds now to actually touch on that, what they can actually do to help themselves in this period.
Yeah, a lot of old people have non-communicable diseases, hypertension, arthritis, diabetes. Some have cardiovascular issues. What we've continued to encourage them is to try and make sure that they don't expose themselves unnecessarily. Continue to take their medication. But with COVID, there has been a lot of problems with medication because lack of money affects your ability to purchase your drugs, and also hospitals have not been open to attend to some of their issues. So we've been encouraging them to maintain themselves as much as don't expose themselves unnecessarily. We've also been appealing to government to part of the palliative should be to reduce the drugs that older persons are using so that they can be better cared for. If you are not giving them money, reduce the drug so that they can be able to look after themselves.
How do they come in to do that? Because you are different areas of the country. What means would they be able to do to attend to that?
How did government do with HIV? All the drugs for HIV were either given free or they were cheaper. So the same program they did for HIV, which was a problem created by the person, they can do the same for older persons across the board.
Quickly, to another concern to you is on your appeal for Nigerians to eliminate all forms of elder abuse, either in form of gender violence and abuse by care provider and family members.
Yes. There are some places in Nigeria up to now, older persons are regarded as witches. And everything that goes wrong in the community, they accuse the older person. Sometimes they even come and beat up the older person to say, why are you causing problem for us in this family and all that. And in different forms, older persons are being abused, even by people who look after them. Some people who live abroad, they send money to their someone who is looking after their parents, and the person diverts the money, doesn't feed the poor mother, and if he talks, they can beat him. If you tell anybody, I'll beat you. And some people are discriminated because you are a woman. Go to some areas, some widows who are older persons are denied a lot of rights in the community. So you find that in different communities, older persons are being abused, and our position is that older persons have contributed to the building of this country, and therefore they should be treated fairly by the community and by the government. They worked for government. Some of the retired civil servants, worked for government. At this time, they've been abandoned.
So you still want to be reabsorbed in one form or the other?
We don't want to be reabsorbed. We want to be looked after. We want them to provide Medicare for older persons. We want them to provide some financial security for older persons. We want them to look into the issues that affect older persons in the communities. We know that the time is tough for everybody, and we are not only appealing to government, we're appealing to families to please remember your older persons. See what COVID has done to a lot of older persons. Older persons derive a lot of joy by hugging children, by playing, and by being touched, and by being cared for. Now, COVID is talking about social distancing.
You can't play with grandchildren.
You can't play with grandchildren. That's why in our coalition, we decided to be sending credits, credit top-up to those who can get their phones, so that they will continue to talk to people at a distance, and when you communicate, because loneliness kills. And now you are isolating the older persons because of COVID. So a lot of older persons are going through hell during this period. And those are the areas we want families to get involved, government to get involved, stakeholders to get involved, because older persons are going through a very tough time.
Distinguished Senator EZE, AJOKU, I'm going to conclude this program by giving the quotes you said. Old age is a blessing, and old people should end their journey on earth on a joyous note.
Thank you very much.
We wish you well.
Thank you very much.
We wish all the older persons in the coalition a successful time.
Thank you.
Don't worry, COVID will be over soon. You have time to hug your grandchildren and everyone around, showing such warmth even from this moment on.
Thank you very much for your time. Yes.
And that's on the spot with the President, Coalition of Societies for the Rights of Older Persons in Nigeria, Roping. Thank you very much, distinguished Senator, Dr. Darlington EZE AJOKU, once again. We appreciate your time. Next time to be with another interesting guest. My name is Blessing Abu. Goodbye.